Let's talk about gluten a little bit. That can certainly tie into immune health. Is gluten really that bad, or is it like a lot of people say, it's just kind of the next big thing?
Well, great questions. Great questions about gluten. So there was, a doctor was asking that very thing, and it's like, well, are people in the big gluten thing now? I mean, is this a real thing, or is it that people are just more aware of it now? So it's not that it's any more prevalent than it used to be. And he got permission to use frozen serum that was collected in a study in 1950, a population study. And he tested that for the anti-gluten antibodies, and then got serum from a current study, population study. And yep, it turned out that there's twice as much gluten intolerance antibody related now as there was in 1950. And I believe a large part of that is due to this toxic burden that we all carry. As I mentioned, there are a number of chemicals that now have been documented in the medical literature with causing this imbalance. And oh, surprise, they're the same toxins that the CDC has now documented to be ubiquitous in the population. So we are all getting more and more burdened, and the rate of allergies is really going up, and autoimmunity. And gluten is also an autoimmune disorder because you have inflammation attacking and you actually get antibodies against your own tissues. So I think they're very, very tied together. I don't think this is just a coincidence that it's showing up now as it is.
From what you've seen, what can going gluten-free do, whether you're very sensitive to it or not? I mean, can that drastically improve people's health?
I'd say for most people, yes. If you're going gluten-free, you're automatically off of wheat. And wheat, sugar, and dairy have been the three most common reacting foods. By that I mean foods that people eat regularly. They love and crave. They eat it every day. They can't conceive of life without wheat, sugar, or dairy. Oh my God. What do I do for pizza? But I've been practicing, since the early 1980s. I started practicing in 1982. And so many people's chronic health complaints, from fatigue to asthma, joint aches, brain fog, hay fever, sinus problems, lack of energy, all these things, I would find that if I could identify what foods their body was reacting to, and they were always the favorite foods, get them to stop eating them, they'd feel dramatically better. Now, you might be familiar with Dr. Peter Diadamo's book, Eat Right for Your Type. It was first published, I believe, in 1994, and here we are, 2014, 20 years later. It's still in hardback. It has not gone to paperback yet. That's the sales of it. It's now translated into, I think, 50 some odd different languages. And what Dr. Diadamo shows in the blood type is he shows, okay, A, B, O, the blood types, and says what foods, are not compatible with it. Well, wheat isn't compatible with any of them. And he's got a worldwide following because people followed his diet and got off the foods and felt immensely better. Now, for a while, he had a system on his website that you could go and fill out, what blood type you were and what your results were. And I was reading those, a decade or so ago. Peter let me read them. Peter and I went to school together. And he let me read them, and I'm reading these comments. I'm thinking, that's what I hear from people when I test them for adverse food reactions, and then stop eating their reacting foods. So, Peter's been doing this for decades now, and people all over the world feel better. When I would test individuals in my practice, especially kids that were brought in for chronic illness, and I'd find they're allergic to wheat, I'd tell mom, everybody in the house goes off wheat, not just your child, because you can't have everybody else in the house eating wheat and not let the kid have it. There's hell to pay if that's going on. And sure enough, Mom would come back and report everybody in the family's feeling better. So, I mean, if you, one of the things just for dropping weight is I tell people the no white diet. No white flour, no white sugar. If you avoid all those things, you're going to feel better. Your energy is going to be up. The weight's going to be down. And you're going to be like, life, where have you been? So to answer the question of would it be helpful for everybody, I have to say yes. And I'm actually thrilled with the amount of gluten-free items that are out there, because it used to be, oh gosh, back in the 80s and early 90s, when I'm working with these people, get off of wheat, it was so hard to do. Now, it's just go gluten-free. They can go to the grocery store, there's a gluten-free section. They can go to restaurants, they have gluten-free menus. Domino's has a gluten-free pizza, for crying out loud. So it makes it so much easier for people now.